Joining us now to talk all things technology and social justice, we are very fortunate to have David Spriggs. David is the Group CEO of two Australian not-for-profit organisations that recently merged to create an entity that is dedicated towards harnessing technology to improve the lives of those experiencing disadvantage. So thank you so much for coming along today, David.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Infoxchange started 30 years ago now.
Wow.
And as I started on the vision of technology for social justice. Started fairly humble beginnings, literally working out of a garage in Springvale, in the suburbs of Melbourne. And the initial project was working on a homelessness crisis accommodation register. Kind of got that up and running 30 years ago before the internet.
Yeah.
Actually connected homeless shelters together, and they were sharing bed vacancy information between the shelters. And so from those humble beginnings, fast forward to today, we've now got 150 staff across Australia, and still very much technology for social justice at the core, which is all about how do we empower people, individuals and communities through the use of technology, and how can we help the not-for-profit sector have more impact in their work through the use of technology. And you mentioned just late last year we merged with another not-for-profit called Connecting Up. And we had partnered with Connecting Up for many years, and it's a shared vision of strengthening communities using technology. And together we're now serving more than 2 million Australians in need every year, about 25,000 not-for-profits. Wow. just in the last 12 months. So it's for not-for-profits, it's all about how can we assist with capacity building with the sector. So for small to medium not-for-profits, that's often how do you think a little bit differently about technology, and how might you build technology in as a core part of your business plan? How can you take advantage of things like the cloud, for example, and some of the new and emerging technologies?
Yeah.
We then also provide services to help organisations make the most of technology and implement those services. And through Connecting Up, what we do is we're able to provide a large range of discounted and donated technology to the sector. So one of the frustrations that we often have is people aren't aware that that's available. And so, for example, most not-for-profits can be eligible to get free versions of Microsoft and Google Cloud products, for example, or financial packages like MYOB. And so it's helping organisations be aware that those solutions are available. So there's a few challenges. The number one, when we survey the sector, the number one always comes up around budget and funding.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be any surprise to people working in the not-for-profit sector.
Yeah.
And so clearly that's a need to have that capacity and that funding available. Although I also think that sometimes that constrained funding actually leads to some really innovative solutions across the sector.
And by force, it has to.
Absolutely. And so I've seen, some of the most innovative uses of technology I've seen in the not-for-profit sector, really just because of that lack of funding. Some of the other pieces are the confidence and capability of staff to use technology. So we recently did a survey, and over 50% of staff in not-for-profits said that they weren't confident using technology. Even more concerning was the majority of organisations weren't planning any training for their staff in the next 12 months. So that's a key dilemma. And then it's around affordable technology. So how can we create solutions which are affordable for the sector? And as I referenced before, through Connecting Up, being able to provide low or no cost cloud technology to the sector is a significant enabler. But it's helping organisations understand what that means and how they can get access to that technology.
Infoxchange has been releasing a digital technology in the not-for-profit sector report.
Yeah.
What is the report's objective? What does it aim to achieve?
Yeah, so with the report, really what we're looking to do is understand the use of technology across the sector, And why do we do that? It's for a few reasons. One is so other not-for-profits can understand sort of where they're at on the journey and how that might compare to other not-for-profits in the sector. And so some measures in there, like how much are organisations spending on technology. So the average not-for-profit in Australia, for example, spends about $3,600 per staff member per year on technology. And so that can be a useful benchmark for organisations.
Sure. Do you know how that compares to the private sector?
It's interestingly fairly similar to the equivalent in small to medium businesses in the private sector, and it's actually improved over the last 4 years that we've been running the survey. So traditionally, the not-for-profit sector was significantly lagging small to medium businesses, and have fortunately caught up with some of that.
What do you put that down to? What do you think the reasons are that they are catching up?
I think really it's become, we say, technology is no longer optional for not-for-profits. So, so once upon a time, maybe you could get away with your case notes or your client management, depending on the work that the organisation was involved with. You might have been able to get away with paper-based systems for that. But increasingly, organisations need online systems and electronic systems to help manage their operations. Yeah, so we'd certainly like to be doing a lot more with the legal services and advocacy sector, and we know that so many of those organisations are operating with really constrained resources, and so technology can be a significant enabler. And our interest in that space is, yes, kind of the nuts and bolts of technology and sort of helping with the basics around cloud and making the most of technology. The other real area of interest for us is how people are accessing and how people are finding legal support services. So for people in need, how do they find the right service? How do they connect into the right service? And how can they get the information that they need? And so working with some of the services like Legal Aid and some of the community legal centres, it's often, and people will connect, but they're not necessarily connecting with the right service. And sometimes they'll connect with a pro bono lawyer, for example, to assist them, when actually they might have been able to access some self-help resources to resolve the issue that they were looking for. So again, how can we use technology to better direct people to connecting with the right services? Yeah, so Ask Izzy is a mobile website that we originally developed for people experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness, and it connects people. It's a mobile website. It connects people in with support services in their local area. So it's backed by a service directory that we run at Infoxchange with over 350,000 services across Australia. It's free to use, and so individuals can just put askizzy.org.au into their mobile, and it comes up and says, what sort of support are you looking for? And so that might be people looking for a food service, where can they get a free meal? It might be looking for crisis accommodation, it might be looking for health services. And it's got in there all of the legal support services across Australia. When we launched Ask Izzy about 4 years ago now, we had what we thought was an aspirational goal of, could we maybe help 100,000 people over the first 2 years? We're now receiving over 150,000 searches per month on Ask Izzy from people in need, which we say is great. People are aware of it, but how sad is it that there's that many people in our community that just are often looking for very basic supports, like where can they get a free meal? But the legal support services, we've seen growing interest in that category. I think over 50,000 searches for legal support in the last 12 months on Ask Izzy. And again, it's something we would like to do, to work more closely with the sector to say, let's make sure we're directing people to the most appropriate service.
Yeah, sure.
Some of the other things that we're doing, we're working with the Telstra Foundation at the moment to build a chatbot interface for Ask Izzy. It's particularly driven by some of the co-design and research we've been doing with young people, who say, well, why can't this be more like the Google Assistant, or why can't it be more like Facebook Messenger? And so really just an interactive chatbot for people to be able to talk about their needs and Ask Izzy to connect them in with services. So, yeah. And the other piece we're starting to learn from Ask Izzy is the data. So we're starting to get a picture based on people's use of Ask Izzy on what's the demand for services across the country. And we've made that available through something called the Ask Izzy open data platform. And so through that platform you can go in, for example, and you can look at, where's the service demand for legal support services across Australia. Where are the kind of hotspots for those service requests?
That would be so useful in identifying where the gaps are, where funding needs to be injected.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's kind of some of the early stage service planning work people are doing, is looking at that demand and then looking at where the service providers are, and then you're starting to identify.
And anyone can access that open data?
So yeah, so that's freely available, and we've seen it being used by government, as you might expect from a policy perspective. But also from a lot of service providers and not-for-profits who are just interested to see, what's the demand in their area, how might they be able to better respond to those needs that they're seeing. One of the particular ones that I love outside of Infoxchange is the work that Orange Sky has been doing. So people are not aware of, Orange Sky started as Orange Sky Laundry, with two Brisbane boys, Nick and Lucas, literally put a washing machine and a dryer in the back of a van, and we're driving around the streets of Brisbane helping people who are homeless to wash their clothes. And they've now expanded that. They're now running nationally. They have thousands of volunteers across both Australia and New Zealand to deliver those services. They're now offering laundry services and shower services. And they've actually found that it's not just providing those services, but it's providing opportunities for conversation with who they call their friends on the street. And I love that, talking about not clients, but friends. And sort of the opportunity for conversation with their friends. And so quite a lot of people know about the story of Orange Sky and the work they're doing on the street. What is sometimes a really well-kept secret within Orange Sky is that their use of technology. And so they've managed to scale their operations through the use of technology. The first paid employee Orange Sky brought on board was actually a software engineer, which is quite unusual for a not-for-profit organisation. But they saw from the very beginning that if they were going to scale, then they would need technology to underpin their operations. And so everything from volunteer onboarding to shift management to rosters to all of the occupational health and safety is all done through technology. They have tablets for all of their vans. Ask Izzy is on the tablets that they use in their vans to enable their volunteers to refer people in need to appropriate services. So they've just achieved so much. And then a really exciting piece in the last 12 months, they won $1 million from Google through the Google Impact Challenge, and they're now making that technology available to the entire sector. So they've called it Campfire. I think the first release of that is just available now. And so taking their learnings and all of the work that they've done and now sharing that right across the sector. So I just think, incredibly exciting, and I think, just a great example of how technology can really not just be an enabler but underpin the whole operations of a not-for-profit.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, that's wonderful, and a conversation like this is so helpful for us in the legal sector to take those learnings and those experiences. So thank you so much for coming today, David.
Absolutely, my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.